The following comedy impersonation is based on an actual recent episode of The Tim Dillon Show. Tim Dillon, a popular MAGA right-wing influencer and close friend of Joe Rogan, recently came under heavy fire from both the left and the right for hypocritically agreeing to take a large sum of Saudi Arabian money to perform at an upcoming comedy festival for the Saudi royal family. Tim recently shared his candid and honest response on his show. Mr. Dillon, 10 seconds to air.
Okay, cool.
And rolling live.
Well, listen to all of you Christian hypocrites want to make fun of Tim Dillon because I'm taking the Saudi Arabian money like you wouldn't do the same thing. Bullshit. Give me a break. Just to tell a few jokes? Are you kidding me? You're not going to take the money and run? At least I'm being honest. So let me get this straight. You're telling me you wouldn't take almost $500,000 to tell a few jokes to the Saudi royal prince and his extended family just because of their long-standing history of being funders of global terrorism? Come on, please. Let me see if I have this straight. You're telling me that I'm a hypocrite and you wouldn't take almost $500,000 from the Saudi royal family just because the now declassified 28 pages from the congressional 9/11 investigation finally reveal that they were the primary funders and organizers of the attacks on the World Trade Center? You're telling me because 15 of the 19 hijackers on 9/11 were Saudi Arabian that I shouldn't take the money and run from the comedy festival they invited me to? Give me a freaking break. You people are the hypocrite. I'm taking the money and running, in the words of Steve Miller's famous hit. And at least I'm the one who's being honest. So, now, listen, so I'm gonna do some very carefully worded jokes. Totally approved in advance. They're gonna get a copy of everything I'm gonna say and make sure I'm not getting my head chopped off or something else chopped off. I mean, Tim Dillon's not a freaking idiot like many of you guys may think. I'm not that stupid. I don't want to get Khashoggi'd for crying out loud, I want to come back in one piece. I want to be able to take advantage of my round trip ticket, if you know what I'm saying.
According to Wikipedia, Khashoggi was assassinated at the Saudi consulate in Istanbul on 2 October 2018 by agents of the Saudi government at the behest of Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman. Never forget Washington Post columnist Jamal Khashoggi, lured to that Istanbul consulate for a meeting under false pretenses while his fiancée waited for him outside. Jamal never would return, having not only been murdered for reporting on human rights atrocities in Saudi Arabia, but his body cut into pieces inside the consulate. Both Trump and Biden have both taken the money and the oil and looked the other way. Despite Khashoggi's murder and despite the now unredacted 28 pages of the congressional 9/11 investigation that revealed the Saudis as the primary funder of the terrorist attacks on 9/11.
My jokes have been totally approved in advance. Nothing gonna get my head chopped. I mean, if I'm there and I see somebody getting their head chopped off, or their arm chopped off for telling some bad joke, I'm looking the other way, and I'm taking the money, and I'm gonna run. Come. Now you're gonna tell me you don't suck on a Twinkie and slowly suck out the cream? Give me a freaking break. You do the same thing. This is what me and my buddy Joe Rogan do every time we get together and have a few beers. You gotta suck the cream out really slow. Oh my God, that's good. Riyadh, here I come. And I admit, I see, I'm the one being honest. I admit, I'm gonna be the Saudi royal family's total bitch for my entire comedy set. But the difference is, I'm being honest. All of you guys are even bigger hypocrites than me because you're pretending that you're so holier than thou Christians and you'd never take Saudi blood money. Bullshit. God, that's so good. Let me ask you a question. Have you even read your Bible? Because the Bible is all about blood money. Of course, they called it animal sacrifice and human sacrifice, God ordaining the genocide of all who were not Jewish, Jesus saying he's going to come back with his army of genocidal angels and wipe out all who are not believers. So I'd say that rampant message all through the Old and the New Testament is the epitome of hypocrisy, the epitome of blood money, and it's not exactly all loving and all forgiving, is it? So let's be honest here. Let's not bullshit around the bush. So yes, get it straight. Tim Dillon is looking the other way, ignoring all the human rights atrocities and funding of terrorism by the Saudi royal family. And in the words of Steve Miller, like I said, I'm gonna take the money and run. Oh my God, you gotta suck it. Suck. You do. You have to suck it really slow. The cream. So it's kind of like when you eat an Oreo, and you gotta eat the cream first before you eat the cookie. You gotta suck the cream out of it really slow. And I mean, are you really gonna try to sit there and tell me that Jesus wouldn't take the money and run? Please. Now let me tell you, Jesus, in my opinion, had a killer comedy act. Where do you think Michael Jackson got his idea for moonwalking? He stole it from Jesus, who did the same thing. He moonwalked for the first time before anybody did on the famous Walking on the Water. Actually, you could make the argument with the whole loaves and fishes miracle that Jesus was more like David Copperfield, not so much a comic as an illusionist. Now, are you telling me Jesus wouldn't take almost $500,000 to go moonwalk on the water for the Saudis? Give me a freaking break. Oh my God, it's so good. And by the way, it's not like I'm not going to give any of the money back to the church. I know Tim Dillon knows about tithing. I'm a good Christian. So of course, I'm going to put an extra $5 in the offering plate. Oh, God, no. Good. Maybe an extra 10 spot. If I'm feeling generous. So I'd say that's fair. I'm giving some money back. I'm tithing like I'm supposed to. So shut the F up already, all you hypocrites. Besides, like I said, Tim Dillon's not an idiot. I know I'm a passing flash in the pan. I know I'm a passing fart from Trump's ass, okay? All right, I'm just gonna be honest. I'm being honest about everything else. I have to make as much money as I can in a short amount of time. Actually, it might be longer than you think for a fart from Trump's ass to dissipate. As I understand it, it was still kind of hanging around in the White House Oval Office since his first term in office. So it might take a while. So even though I'm kind of a fast-passing fad right now, I gotta take the advantage of it and take the money when I can. Speaking of which, I have to wrap this up now, or I'm not gonna make it to the toilet.
And then my good friend Jimmy Kimmel. I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
Connie Bryan, and of course you're watching the one and only Connie Bryan Show, and boy, do I have one heck of a powerful blockbuster in store for you again tonight. There's so much to get to, but we've not done it the last couple of episodes, and I can't go another episode without welcoming each and every one of our markets across the nation. We've grown now to over 20 markets nationwide, and like I always say, I couldn't be more proud. So this is the part of the program where we like to welcome all of you. Thanks for tuning in, everyone here in our hometown in Sacramento and our sister city right next door, Davis. Thanks to all of you watching in Truckee, Tahoe, and moving a little more over closer to the Bay Area. Welcome to everyone tuning in Napa wine country. As always, thanks so much for watching. And then moving into the Bay Area itself, we have a couple of, actually 3 markets. Welcome to everyone watching in Berkeley and in San Francisco and also in San Jose at Create TV. Thanks for tuning into the show. And then moving to Southern California, we want to welcome a couple of markets we have over that way. Welcome to all of you in Long Beach, as well as everyone tuning in Santa Cruz and Gilroy. I think that covers all of our California markets right now. We have a couple of markets in Oregon. Welcome to everyone tuning in Portland at Open Signal, and all of you watching in Beaverton, Oregon. And then moving to the center of the country, we want to welcome one of our long-standing markets, Denver, Colorado. Thanks for tuning into the show. And moving over to the East Coast, we have several markets. Let's start at the southernmost point. Welcome to everyone tuning in Salisbury, Maryland, and in Salem, Massachusetts, one of our longest standing markets. Thank you for watching. A couple of our newer markets. We're so excited to be broadcasting in New York. So welcome to everyone tuning in Staten Island, as well as Manhattan, New York. And then a little further north, we want to welcome everyone tuning in Stratford, Connecticut. And that would be Soundview Media. Thank you for watching. And last but certainly not least, just at the northernmost point on the East Coast, welcome to all of you tuning in the Falls area of Vermont, which would be Keene Station and Bellows Falls. I don't think I left anyone out. And wherever you are worldwide on the web, thanks for tuning into the show. Don't forget, you can always catch all my content on demand at conniebryan.com. Also on rumble.com /Connie Bryan. You can type in the Connie Bryan Show on Rumble and you'll find my channel. I haven't been posting much on YouTube. I've told you guys about the censorship I've had there for such a long time. We're going to talk a little bit more about that tonight. I just want to give you some good news. I did post the Tim Dillon sketch that you just saw, my funny impersonation of Tim Dillon, calling him out for his hypocrisy. And I just got to say, it's been allowed to reach some views. That's a good sign. Was hoping that maybe YouTube would lift the curse, and it looks like maybe we're starting to see a change there regarding my content. So I just want to invite you to go on YouTube, and you could help me by subscribing and liking that video. Go on there and watch it and help me boost it. You can help boost it by liking it, of course. And that's why you hear content creators always saying, please like the video. It helps in the algorithm. So if you guys want to, go on YouTube and see some of my content that I did put up, it actually is up to I think 800 850 or 860 views, compared to where they were not letting me get, more than 3 or 4 recently. So let's hope, fingers crossed that trend continues as I try to put a few things up there on YouTube. But like I said, most of my content right now is you're always going to be able to find it on Rumble and also on my actual website at conniebryan.com. And that leads me to my next announcement. This show tonight is going to be based on my most recent Substack article, and I'm going to be putting more content on my Substack channel. So that would be the Connie Bryan Show .substack.com. Pretty sure that's the right way to type it in to find it. Of course, if you just go on Substack and type in Connie Bryan or the Connie Bryan Show, you'll find it. So I wanted to announce the fact that I'm going to be doing more on Substack as a writer and an author. Speaking of which, by the way, what's nice about Substack is you can put videos up too, and I think you can put a whole hour content up. So I may start putting the whole show on, but when you check out this current article, I've attached to it a very important 15-minute trailer from my Lies of Control series that complements this subject matter very, very well and very critically. Very, very important that you check that out. This the 15-minute trailer for my Lies of Control that adjoins this article that's on Substack. And then the other thing I wanted to say, I mentioned it, because I'm an author and a writer, I want to use Substack more. I want to make another big announcement. My second book as an author is about to be released. I'm in the final edit, the final chapters of it. It's going to be at least 13, 14 chapters, maybe more. I'm on chapter 13 of the edit process right now. I love writing, but the editing is just such a pain. Just takes so much focus to make sure you get all your grammar correct, and spelling correct and everything. What's nice about it in the editing is you can, when you're doing that, you find even better ways to say what you wanted to say. So that's the upside of it. Okay, so that's most of the announcements I wanted to make at the start of the show. I do want to quickly get to Tucker Carlson's fantastic new documentary on 9/11 being a false flag. I was one of the early voices long before Tucker more recently has been allowed, he's been given the green light to come forward with what people like myself did, early pioneers bringing truth to power, back when Tucker was buying all of the bullshit and spewing it at Fox. Fortunately, he's left that and sort of been what we call red-pilled, at least on some of these things like 911 and the Epstein files, just to name a couple. So good for Tucker to finally coming around, but I was one of the early voices in the mid-2000s calling out the lies we were told of 9/11. And that's the reason why yours truly has suffered so much, meaning I've been held back and not allowed to, find any open doors in mainstream media because of the fact that they know I'm not going to adhere to their bullshit narrative and script. And one of the things that gets you targeted really quickly is if you, well, at least back then, something seems to have changed now that they're allowing it. But if you were like me back then, you got blacklisted, as you're going to hear Tucker say in just a minute. He's saying the same thing. He's telling everybody that those of us who were talking about it back then, up to this point, were blacklisted and targeted and punished, and kept and suppressed. And so that's what I'm still trying to overcome. So with that said, let's take a listen and watch a couple of Tucker's clips from episode 1 of his new 9/11 documentary.
Anyone who doubts the official narrative is cast as a kook, a criminal, a fringe conspiracy theorist, and punished. They've been blacklisted and censored and banned. Even as the leaders who failed to protect our country on 9/11 used these attacks as a pretense to expand their own powers and permanently transform the United States. Over the course of this investigation, we made numerous findings that shocked us, not least of which the apparent role that former CIA Director John Brennan played in helping bring the 9/11 hijackers to the United States, and the remarkable lengths the CIA went to protect the 9/11 hijackers from the FBI.
You had a duty to protect Americans, and you failed because of your fantastical delusion that you could recruit somebody inside the cell.
Okay, so you heard him there actually say, like I just explained to you, that if you were talking about this topic, as recent as just even a couple of years ago, you were blacklisted and you were a pariah. You know, you were radioactive and not allowed to be on the air. They would take down your content, which is what they did. They took down my entire show with Eric Hufschmidt, the author of the book Painful Questions. In 2006, I heard him on George Norrie's show, Coast to Coast, and I was just really impressed with how he was covering the critical points to show that we were being lied to about the terrorist attacks on 9/11. And what I didn't like was they had somebody come on that was kind of a regular on George Norrie's Coast to Coast who started interrupting Eric and wouldn't let him make his points as he was about halfway through the interview. And then they just cut Eric and let the other person who had been cutting him off continue with George Norrie, and they just dropped Eric completely from that night's show. So this was when I was in Santa Barbara, and I heard Eric mention that he was in Santa Barbara during that interview. So I reached out, I found his phone number, reached out to him, and I just want to make something clear. I did not know about Eric Hufschmidt's allegedly having made comments that were considered anti-Semitic. I guess it was Holocaust denial, allegedly. So I didn't know that. I don't know that you should call it Holocaust denial. I don't know exactly what Eric said, but it was cast as that, if characterized as that by a lot of people who called it anti-Semitic. I didn't know about that when I heard Eric talking about the lies of 9/11 in his book, Painful Questions. And so that came to me when I met Eric, and one thing led to another, and somehow I heard about that before he came on the show. So I want to make sure that I admit that before he came on, I had heard about it. But what I want everybody to know is I told Eric, we're not going to go into any of that. Okay? I don't know what it was that you said, but I don't want anything like that being part of this. I just want to talk about what you've researched regarding the lies of 9/11, and he agreed to that. So if any of you out there think that I shared any of those kind of views that he was accused of, like I said, I don't know exactly what he said, but that led those to call it Holocaust denial. No. I totally support Israel in the fact that the Holocaust was just one of the most horrible things in our history, and we have to guard against that and protect them from anything like that. That said, that doesn't mean we can't call out their own hypocritical genocide that they're committing against the Palestinians in Gaza. That's what makes that so unconscionable. It doesn't mean that you're anti-Semitic to call out the genocide that they're engaging in shamefully. But I wanted to make that clear that regarding the Hufschmidt interview, okay, it was all only on the topic of the lies of 9/11. You got to seek it out. And what I was going to say is YouTube censored it and took it down. Now, they do have one little 10-minute clip that you can find if you type in Eric's name, Eric Hufschmidt. You'll find a 10-minute clip of the full hour that still survived on YouTube. But what I'd like you to do is go on Rumble and find my channel on rumble.com, The Connie Bryan Show, and look for 2 full-hour episodes that I did on the topic, which will be the one I did with Eric, the full hour with Eric. You've got to see that. It's just so succinct, okay? It synopsizes everything in 1 hour with a lot of great clips you've got to see. so you understand how we were lied to and how this was not the story we were told of just some bumbling, 19 hijackers, or that it was, somehow involved Saddam Hussein, and no, now we find out. I did two, like I said, there's a second episode I did called Never Forget the 28 Pages. You've got to see that too, and you'll find that on Rumble, in which it was declassified finally, thanks to Obama, around 2015, that the congressional investigation into 9/11 found that it was Saudi Arabia who were the main funders of the terrorist attacks of 9/11. Okay, so these are two videos of mine that were not being allowed on YouTube, and then that one with Eric was taken down, and that is why I've been held back so much. But now you can hear Tucker saying that and trying to get more people aware of this. Let's listen to clip 2 from Tucker now.
According to a recently released court filing, former White House counterterrorism czar Richard Clarke told government investigators that the, quote, CIA was running a false flag operation to recruit the hijackers.
When Cofer Black became the head of the counterterrorism center at CIA, he was aghast that they had no sources in al-Qaeda.
After Clarke made that claim publicly, he received an angry call from former director of the CIA, George Tenet, who did not deny the allegations made by Mr. Clarke, end quote. But when we reached out to Tenet, his spokesperson denied that the CIA was recruiting hijackers, calling it false rumors and saying, quote, that's categorically not true. He also recalled that the executive director of the 9/11 Commission, Philip Zelikow, blocked the commission's investigation into the matter at the behest of Condoleezza Rice.
Okay, so there you have it. You got to check out not only my content, but also Tucker's current series. And it's good news that this is now apparently being allowed to be posted on YouTube. Before I get to my Substack story, my Substack article, I do want to also address Jimmy Kimmel and his suspension. And now at the time of the airing of my episode right now, he's been reinstated to the airway. His show is now airing again. We'll see. Hopefully that'll last. But the controversy about it is that Sinclair Media and Nexstar, some local affiliates of ABC, are still not allowing Jimmy Kimmel's late night show to air on their broadcast airwaves. So that's going to be interesting to see how that plays out. But I want to say that the reason why I believe Kimmel was reinstated, his show was brought back, and he was allowed to continue, really wasn't just because of people on their own accord boycotting Disney. I mean, that played a part in it. But what I want to say is I really believe it was living legend, national treasure David Letterman who was the impetus for that. So I'm not saying it didn't have anything to do with all the people boycotting Disney, but what I'm saying is I don't think they would have done what they did, all the people boycotting Disney, if David hadn't lit the fuse. Okay, so I'm going to show you the clip from David Letterman being interviewed by The Atlantic, and he knocks it out of the park, calling out the Trump administration for the criminal dictatorship administration that it is. Take a listen to this.
And then my good friend Jimmy Kimmel, I feel bad about this because we all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.
All right, so there you have it right from the mouth of one of my biggest idols and one of my biggest influences. And I can't thank David Letterman enough for having the courage to step up and call Trump out like that. You can see why he's one of my idols. So, all right, now moving on to my article on Substack. It's entitled "Charlie Kirk Assassination Backfires on MAGA Christians pushing shocking levels of trans hate using false stereotypes and Bible-based bigotry. And it has a subtitle, Alleged Assassin Identified as the Opposite, a non-trans, straight white male ironically turned in by his alleged transgender roommate and his staunchly MAGA gun enthusiast Mormon family. His girlfriend, who's in transition from male to female as we understand it. That's the word so far that seems to be verified, but we're still trying to get the full extent of whether or not that's in fact the case. But enough reputable sources have said that that's the case. So you could also say that they turned him in because the FBI has admitted that they fully cooperated from the beginning to provide the evidence of their boyfriend being the shooter. So it's completely the opposite, which is what I'm going to get into here, of the hate speak that we've heard from MAGA trying to demonize those who are transgender as being involved in this, when the opposite was the case. There happened to be a person apparently who's transgender going through the transition who was instrumental in turning the shooter in. Okay, so let's get into it here. My article begins, whether it be from the ongoing unchecked acts of genocide by Israel and Netanyahu against untold growing numbers of innocent Palestinians, over half of which are children, and with over 1,000 innocent Palestinians now confirmed to have been shot by IDF or IDF contractor snipers simply while standing in line waiting to get food aid, with still no international peacekeeping force action taken by the United Nations as we approach the 2-year anniversary of these ongoing war crimes by Israel. Oh, they'll say now 9 more countries led by France and Britain will say, we're doing a resolution declaring that, we call for a 2-state solution. Good for you guys. Finally, you're going to say that? Finally. Great. But that doesn't stop the genocide. You're fine with letting your UN rapporteur, who I featured on the show, showing you some clips from her, Francesca Albanese, you're fine for letting her take the point and put herself out there. You know the kind of risk that puts her in? The way she's called out Netanyahu and Israel for their war crimes? You're fine with her being on the point as a target. Oh, but God forbid you should put together a peacekeeping force and stop the genocide. You're fine with Greta Thunberg, I believe how you pronounce it, and her flotilla being put at risk. Okay, they have the courage to go and they've been attacked twice already. They're in the 3rd attempt, as I understand it, to try to bring their flotilla of food aid to the Palestinians. Twice before, their ships were attacked by Israeli drones. A couple of nations have provided warships to escort Greta's flotilla trying to bring aid this 3rd time. So we're going to see how that goes. But my point is, the UN, who should be taking action with a peacekeeping force to stop it, they're not doing that. It's just words from them. While we see people like Greta and those activists who are joining her, and people like Francesca Albanese out there on the point with their lives at risk. Something's just not right about this. Calling for a 2-state solution is what France and Britain and these other nations that have just joined them should have been doing for a long time now. But that's not enough. You've got the International Court of Justice already decreeing this as genocide and putting out a warrant for Netanyahu's arrest. So what is the UN waiting for in not putting together a peacekeeping force and going in there and stopping this? Okay, so to continue, or whether it be the current mind-blowing degree of corruption behind Trump and his minions trying to protect a network of apparently blackmailed pedophile assets of either U.S. or Israeli intelligence or both. And by the way, that detail being on court record, per former Trump Labor Secretary Alex Acosta, who said back when he was U.S. attorney in Florida when he gave the sweetheart deal to Epstein, that the reason he did and didn't charge him for many other acts of sexual predatory behavior, sex abuse towards underage girls, the reason why he gave him the sweetheart deal was because he was told that Epstein was intelligence and to leave him alone. And in addition to Trump's ongoing transparent effort to hide those many high-profile co-conspirators of Jeffrey Epstein, more and more appearing to likely include himself, his simultaneously giving Epstein's convicted sex trafficker partner Ghislaine Maxwell special treatment to keep her mouth shut, as, get this, actually admitted by a top senior official with the Department of Justice in a very recent undercover audio recording obtained by former Project Veritas investigative reporter James O'Keefe. I don't have time to go and play it for you now. Seek that out, and you're going to be glad you did to hear what that top senior person with the Department of Justice actually admitted was the case with what's happening between the Trump administration and Ghislaine Maxwell, moving her to this basically Holiday Inn Express version of a corrections institute. I've stayed at worse Holiday Inn Expresses than where she's living at, apparently. I'm kidding. But whether it be Trump's admitted plans to mobilize the military and National Guard to take over civilian law enforcement in major blue cities, remember his threats recently to take over law enforcement in Chicago and Memphis, his ongoing ICE raids across the nation by masked, unidentified agents, often violently arresting. Who are they arresting? Not dangerous, undocumented, known felons and gang members. Oh, no. Arresting hard-working immigrant families. In many cases, imprisoning them in the horrible conditions of immigrant deportation facilities such as Alligator Alcatraz in the Florida Everglades swamp. And Democracy Now! Just reported earlier today, actually reporting that the Miami Herald has documented, has come out with an article in the last couple of days saying that, was it a third, maybe even more than a third of the immigrants that had been detained there have gone missing from the rolls of the who have been imprisoned by ICE. They've gone missing. Their families don't know where they are. This is insane. This cannot be allowed to stand. That right there is, we could do a whole show just on that. I mean, I'm so overwhelmed with the amount of content. It's getting so difficult to decide on what it is I need to be bringing to you that you're not hearing in the mainstream media. That's why you tune into the Connie Bryan Show, right? Because you're not getting a lot of what I bring you in the mainstream media. And lastly, to the recent shocking and equally shameful political assassination of Turning Point's founder, Charlie Kirk, this past week. Shameful political assassination of Turning Point's founder, Charlie Kirk, with MAGA Christians immediately fomenting the lies that the shooter was a Trump-hating, left-wing trans activist. And now with the assassin in FBI custody, the truth is shown to be the exact opposite. The assassin, the alleged assassin, that's what I should have said already, because it's really starting to be, everything we're hearing from the FBI is just so full of holes that it's starting to be clear that this is appears to be a major cover-up. I get into, we're probably going to run out of time. I just want to say I get into a lot of this, a lot more details of this in my actual article that we may not have time to get all the way through here. So I hope you'll go on Substack and read it. The alleged assassin, though, Tyler Robinson, turned in by his long-standing MAGA supporter family, identified as being a non-trans gun enthusiast, his family being MAGA. Now we're trying to find out, they still can't get to the bottom of exactly where his political leanings were. They have not been able to tie him to any left-wing groups. But like I said, more and more, it's starting to look like he is a patsy, and he has not been cooperating. The FBI has admitted he has not been cooperating. He has not confessed. So with all the shameful events I just shared, the world right now is more in need of real healing, correction, more in need of the answers that I bring to the fore and detail at length in my book, Holy Libel, than ever before in history. Only a day after Charlie Kirk's assassination, I found it necessary to respond in the comment section of a podcaster's reckless claims, saying that because the FBI was spreading the rumor, and spoiler alert, false rumor, that the shell casings of the assassin's rifle found that the scene contained transgender-related engravings, that this would appear to confirm that the shooter must be a MAGA-hating, violent trans person full of hate at war with MAGA and all that. So as a result of that irresponsible and reckless rhetoric trying to demonize those who are transgender, I had to respond to this person, and correct them and let them know that transgender Americans are virtually always, with extremely rare exception, going to be some of the kindest, most loving people he will ever meet. Transgender people, going to be the kindest, most loving people you will ever meet. I further explained that, due to our very difficult handicap with gender identity disorder, and the resulting ignorant hate and bigotry that we are used to being subjected to primarily from conservative evangelical MAGA types on the right, we more than anyone else know all too well the importance of setting the opposite forgiving and loving example with all of our daily actions in return. This is what you will consistently find across the board with those who are transgender. And lastly, I explained to this person that the truth is, we can see that this appears to be a professional hit. A lot of things pointing to this not being just a deranged, violent act from a lone gunman. It's looking more and more like there were multiple people involved in this. And I went on, let's see, to continue. Over recent years, since Donald Trump's first election in 2016, those who are transgender have been witnessing a shocking level of this vitriolic hate speech growing to a present-day fever pitch from Trump's Christian MAGA base, who are hypocrites. They're acting in the opposite way, and they're not being loving and forgiving. And they're lying, and they're refusing to go and learn about gender dysphoria, okay? They just want to target it with their hate, based largely from their Bible beliefs. And like I say, they used to target, the gay community and gay marriage. This is their latest target, since that didn't work out for them. So I talk a lot about this, not only in Holy Libel, but in my upcoming book entitled Change, which is basically going to be a book. It's going to be my show in book form, and it's going to have a lot more intimate details about my life and what I've been through, and about educating people on gender dysphoria. It's going to be a lot about my influences, how I created the Connie Bryan Show, a lot about the endorsement from Jonathan Winters and my relationship with him back in Santa Barbara. And it's going to be a lot of the critical content that I've brought on the show in chapters in the book. It's going to be quite a blockbuster. But I just want you to know it's going to definitely deal even more with waking people up to the truth, what it means to be transgender, and to expose the lies of the hate from the right attacking us. And lastly, I just want to, again, encourage you to go seek out my article on Substack, because it gets into a lot of details I just didn't have time to go into here. But this shooting of Charlie Kirk, the fact that Tyler Robinson here is another, young, early 20s white male who had access to guns from a gun enthusiast family. How many times have we seen this? It forces us to ask the question, with the growing frequency of these kind of mass shootings and assassinations, even if it's not a mass shooting, this was just one person. It forces us to ask the question, what is causing this increase over the last couple of years in this kind of violence from these usually young white males? And I get into that a lot in this article. Talk about the fact that they're almost always on psychotropic drugs, SSRIs. And so I also include a 15-minute, I think I mentioned this earlier, a 15-minute trailer from my series Lies of Control that helps you understand what is likely going on, influence behind the scenes, kind of what you could call MK Ultra 2.0, which, if you don't know about MK Ultra, you got to check that out. I kind of explain that a little more in the article. Like I said, that's why I want you to go seek it out and read it. MK Ultra being the attempt of this by the CIA to study techniques, to develop techniques to control people's mind using psychedelic drugs like LSD and hypnosis. And they were actually able to get people to commit crimes and not even realize they were doing it, to make a long story short. And the point I get to in my article and with my trailer is that it appears that that never stopped, that research, and that it's been perfected using the artificial intelligence techniques after people get addicted to online gaming and social media, and the ways that I show you that the big tech platforms behind the scenes are learning to influence people and actually predict and control a behavioral outcome. So you're going to definitely want to go and check out that. At least go and watch that 15-minute trailer. All right, thanks. That's going to do it. We're running out of time. So thanks so much for tuning into the show. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll talk to you then. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Well, it's good to be back in New York City after taking the show on the road for the last 2 weeks to Los Angeles. Boy, I thought things were expensive here in New York, Paul, but we tried to stay at the Motel 6. We couldn't find them because they can't afford to leave the light on for you there. California. Really expensive. Let me tell you how expensive. My mother, bless her heart, came with us. She wanted to visit the famous Santa Barbara Mission. It turns out they have a 2-drink minimum for Eucharist. A 2-drink minimum. And while we were there, the big news station in LA, KTLA, reported that 60% of the women polled on the street in Los Angeles and I think we all know how painful that can be. But 60% of the women polled, when asked the question, where would they draw the line on a first date? They said dinner and a movie, and that's it. Now, the other 40% gave a little wiggle room, Paul. 20% of those said dinner and maybe a porn flick, if the male actor looked like Geraldo Rivera. And the other 20%, those would be the floozies, Paul. They said they'd definitely consider sex on the first date, but only if it could be either on or immediately adjacent to the salad bar at Sizzler. Saying hello to the hardest working man in show business, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Paul Schaefer. For tuning into the show. Paul, I understand you had a great time on the road in LA too. I hear you wrote some new material for the band. How about we hear a little bit of that now?
Well, it goes something like this.
All right. Yeah, about sums it up. No one has more fun than we do here at Late Night with David Letterman, every night at 12:30 a.m. on your NBC network. And trust me, the only way we could have more fun is if I personally came to your house and tickled you on your couch. And we're working on that, so be careful what you wish for. Now, with that visual in mind, it's time for viewer mail, everybody. Viewer mail. All right, this letter comes to us from the official David Letterman fan club in Koreatown, right here in New York City. And it says, Dear Dave, it was really nice to have you visit our Korean barbecue restaurant with your camera crew upon your return from LA. We're sorry we didn't get all your jokes, like we didn't really understand why you kept asking, is the pork really pork, wink wink? Or why you kept asking your camera crew, hey guys, ever notice you never hear barking or see any stray dogs in Koreatown? But we just laughed anyway because our culture is to always be polite and you are always a good tipper. Well, thank you. And he continues, but as you know, the world has become very unsettled with Kim Jong-un's almost weekly missile tests that often come way too close for comfort to their neighbors South Korea and Taiwan, recently firing missiles directly into Taiwanese airspace. I remember that. Did you hear about that, Paul? That was scary. That was scary stuff. Let me just say, test firing missiles is the worst, okay, from your neighbors. It's the worst. It should be just common sense, right? That it would be very unsettling and bad neighbor behavior. That's why, Paul, I live in Connecticut, in a nice Connecticut suburb with a really strict homeowners association, and they stipulate right in the agreement when you move in, Paul, they specifically stipulate that missile test launches will not be tolerated. See, that's what the world needs, Paul. Yeah, it needs a homeowners association, and I'm not talking about a new world order, just a strict homeowners association that would sit down and enforce the bylaws with Kim Jong-un Show him in black and white. Look, it says right here on page 6, paragraph 3, subsection A. Right here. It says ICBM missile test launches will not be tolerated. And it even says on the 4th of July. I don't know why Kim Jong-un would be celebrating the 4th of July, but they put that in there just to put that. But back to the letter from the official David Letterman fan club in Koreatown. He continues, we recently found out that Kim Jong-un's brother frequently stays in a top penthouse in Trump Tower. Trump Tower, who would have thought, Paul? So we'd like to respond with strength, he says, and we'd like to perform our own Koreatown missile test launch directly over the penthouse. And we'd like to have your Late Night with David Letterman show film the launch directly from Central Park. Well, hot damn, Paul. I mean, that sounds awesome. And that definitely beats dropping a watermelon from the roof, doesn't it? All right, so of course we agreed to their request in a millisecond. And let's go now to the actual countdown of the Late Night with David Letterman Koreatown missile test launch from Central Park here in New York City.
And we're going in 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, ignition!
Al, tell me it cleared the penthouse? It cleared the building, right? And do we know if it landed yet, where it came down? Possibly the Hamptons. All right, well, we'll see if we get any complaints to the network, but the Late Night with David Letterman Koreatown missile test launch, everybody. Stay tuned, we'll be right back after these messages from our sponsors.
We all see where this is going, correct? It's managed media, and it's no good. It's silly. It's ridiculous, and you can't go around firing somebody because you're fearful or trying to suck up to an authoritarian criminal administration in the Oval Office. That's just not how this works.